This is Katie Colleen here. Welcome back, Colleen Clan, or if you are new, then come join the family. This is kind of a final attempt to restore my cosplay motivation in this video. If you're new, you can look at my previous community post where I talk about how I got in a car crash on the way up to SakuraCon. So we were on our way up to SakuraCon and we were stopped in traffic when we got rear-ended by a distracted driver. Anyways, we were okay, but I did end up with whiplash from the crash. I got pretty bad whiplash. And we still drove up to SakuraCon with the hopes of salvaging our weekend. The whiplash was so bad, I lost some range of motion in my neck the first day or two afterwards, and it also hurt to swallow because like these muscles were so sore. I could hardly move my head without it hurting. So I didn't cosplay at all at SakuraCon, but it has been about a month now since the crash. And I'm feeling a lot better, but it was really hard on my creativity to work so hard on a costume and not wear it. That sure was rough. I feel like it's part of my brand that I have like a bajillion cosplays I want to do, and I'm part of like 20 different collabs and I'm always con crunching. Like that's Colleen Cosplay, that's my brand. So it's been really weird just not wanting to make anything. Like I don't feel like making anything. So I decided that the best way for me to get back into it would be to make something super easy. Something I've made before, something I can't really mess up on. I'm going to do a Batgirl look. Now the outfit I chose though is really obscure. I flipped to the back of the graphic novels where you can see concept art and alternative designs that maybe didn't make it into the book, and I found this. Let's get into patterns and materials. So for patterns, you know what I'm gonna say for the patterns. You already know, I don't even know why we're talking about it. Yaya Han's Ultimate Bodysuit pattern. I use it for every crop top I make on this channel. No surprise. The McCall's legging pattern. I use this for every pair of leggings I make on this channel. No surprise. And actually, I dug around and found my original Batgirl cape pattern from this version of Batgirl that I made. Materials, oh wow, I should have kept that folded. I have the Cosplay Fabrics black stretch pleather. This is a bit difficult to work with, honestly, but I have worked with it quite a bit, so it's something I've experienced working with, so nothing new there. I also have the 4-way matte stretch, also from Cosplay Fabrics, and I'd like to use this as a lining. Then I have this gold metallic stretch, also from Cosplay Fabrics. And I feel, let's see if I regret this, I feel confident enough that I think I can just make the lining layer without making a mock-up. I actually sometimes refer to the lining layer as the high stakes mock-up. It's a chance to try out the pattern and potentially fix any problems, but you're also still using your good fabric. First of all, I am going to either lengthen or shorten the pattern pieces to get them to a crop top length. And for the sleeves, I also lengthen those by quite a bit. And if you are looking for a very detailed stitch-by-stitch tutorial on how to make a superhero crop top, you can check out either my Wonder Girl crop top tutorial using the McCall's bodysuit pattern, or you can check out my Supergirl crop top tutorial using the Simplicity pattern. Here it is. And there's our lining layer. I'd say that's pretty darn good. And that means we are moving on to the stretch pleather outside layer of this top, and I will also be doing the Batgirl Symbol applique as well. So next I took all our patterns and laid them out on this scrap of stretch pleather. Now I'm actually incredibly proud of myself for making an entire crop top fit on this little piece of scrap fabric. This cosplay fabric stuff can get expensive. Like, you want to use every scrap you can. Next, I'm going to be putting the applique onto the top. It is much easier to put the applique onto the top when it is just a piece of fabric instead of an actual shirt. There's a lot of wiggle room with these reference images. It's not something you actually see Batgirl wear. It's just kind of like an image that's shown in a few panels of a comic. There's a lot that I can kind of have freedom on. And one of those things is the Batgirl symbol. So I have 4 different symbols to choose from. I decided I would actually just, you know, print out all 4, cut them out, and see which I liked best on our top. So here is our front 4 panels, 2 front panels, 2 side fronts, and I have been agonizing over this. Oh, it's so stupid. Y'all gonna laugh at me, but I've been agonizing over this. When I did the top stitch right here, this one, originally I had a whoopsie, and I accidentally had my top stitch going, you know, everywhere basically because I messed up. And the thing with stretch pleather is that when you go over it with a needle, the punctures stay. It's why this fabric is so frustrating to work with, because if you sew the wrong place and tear it out, you'll still have all the little needle punctures. And that's what's happened here. And I have been agonizing over whether I should redo this, like cut out these 4 pieces again and sew them together again, or if it's just fine. And right now, I'm at a point that this is very, very easy to remake. It'll only take me about 15 minutes to cut these pieces out and sew them back together. So what can I say? The perfectionism won this time. I'm sorry, everyone who believed that I could just get over it. So after taking that little cosplay perfectionism detour, we are back to sewing the outside layer. Now this goes pretty much the same that the lining layer did, except I'm adding a top stitch. So this is just a little straight stitch that goes along all of the seams. I think it makes it look really clean. Now I've done a lot of videos where I show how to applique, so I'll try and keep it short in this video. So I'm taking our Batgirl symbol. I actually put it up to a vote on Instagram, and this is the symbol that won. So thank you, Instagram Colleen clan, for making the decision for me. I appreciate it. So when I have that symbol cut out, I'm going to then zigzag stitch it onto some tearaway stabilizer. And that just gives the outside edge of this Batgirl symbol a stiff border so that it's not going to slide and crinkle up as much. Then I can put that on our top, and I'm again using a tearaway stabilizer, and then I can go over everything with a satin stitch, which is this really tight zigzag stitch. I think it looks really nice, gives this whole thing an embroidered edge. I was actually pleasantly surprised with how clean this applique turned out. Welcome back, friends. It is once again the weekend, and I think I might actually finish this whole cosplay this weekend. And you see, I was definitely losing a little bit of motivation to work on this costume. Not because it was difficult or frustrating, but literally just because I was kind of getting bored with this costume. I've made so many superhero crop tops that I was honestly just getting a little bit bored with it. But something occurred yesterday that made me want to finish this costume as fast as possible, but also well made. I got my first pair of demonias! Look at these! Look at these! Look! These are like Mega Mind boots. Like, these shoes make quite a statement, and I think they're gonna just take this Batgirl cosplay, rocket it to the next level. So last weekend I finished the lining layer, and then during the week I worked on the applique. So what I need to do now is I need to sew the rest of the outside layer, which should go pretty fast. Then I'm also going to need to cut out the collar and add that. but I do want to give this a little try on before I really close everything up. See if it fits, guys. So I got the lining stuffed in here. So with some of my previous superhero crop top sorts of looks, I did over the head tops. That's how my Supergirl top is, that's how my Wonder Girl top is, it's how my Queen Bee top is. And I did not want to do an over the head with this one, and it's actually for accessibility reasons. So I actually have found that I've been having a really hard time putting shirts on over my head. It's really hard on my shoulder joints, and sometimes if the shirt's really tight, I'll even pull a muscle here in my neck, which is rather painful. So I've really moved away from creating tops that go on over the head that are tightly fit. So I'm gonna put one of these into the back of my top, and the nice thing about these is they have a really big pull on them. So it's gonna be really easy for me to pull this up or down, or for someone else to pull it up or down for me. The pull is just huge, and I haven't had any trouble with these catching. So next, I will be hemming everything up. I need to hem the bottom and, you know, straighten all that out. Need to hem the sleeves. I also need to put the thumb holes in there. And then I will be throwing the zipper in the back. And at that point, I guess we'll be pretty much done with the top for this build. That actually went pretty quickly. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it looks really nice. The fit is just, Next, I'd like to make the shorts. Right now, I'm just wearing a pair of spandex shorts, but I'd like to make my own pair that is made out of the same fabric, so everything matches. I'd like them to be a bit more high-waisted to match the reference, but the shorts should go pretty quick, so I think we're still on track to finish this weekend. I'm gonna make it complicated. Are we surprised? Not really. The McCall's legging pattern. I have used this pattern a few times before. Honestly, it's not a bad pattern for leggings, but it only has one seam on the inside. That's why it says easy. Only has one seam. So it has one seam on the inside of the leg, but no seam on the outside. So you get a big pattern piece like this. This is one leg. There you go, it's a leg. And with all those details in the top, I think the shorts just won't quite fit in. I think it might look a little bit too boring with the top. What I'm gonna do is trace this pattern onto the wrapping paper, and then I'm going to cut it up into front, side back, and back pieces. I just think that's gonna make it look a whole lot more cohesive. Cut it out in my lining layer and sew it, and then I'll try it on with the lining layer, and if all looks good, then I can move on to the stretch pleather layer of our shorts. Here is our lining layer for the shorts, our high stakes mock-up layer. And it went so well actually that I just went ahead and sewed the same thing out of the pleather. So that is the two layers together. Gosh, now the lining layer is all bunched up. I will say that the waist has some gapping, so I'm going to add a waistband to also make this a bit more high-waisted. This is definitely at my hips more than my waist, so I'm gonna add like a thick waistband along the top, and hopefully that will also take care of some of the gapping that I'm seeing in the back here. I think I'll cut them just a little bit shorter and hem them. Which brings me to the cape. So I did ask you guys on Instagram if you were thinking cape or no cape. We got 61% says cape, 39% says no capes. So we'll be going with the cape. Here we are back in craft room number 2, so I can plan out our cape. Now I was looking at that cape and the cape in our reference photos. And the one in the reference photos doesn't have quite as many points at the bottom. I patterned out this piece that I can just tape to the bottom, which reduces it to just 2 half points here. And as far as how big I want this cape, honestly, I don't really have a lot of choices unless I want to buy more of this black stretch pleather. So that'll just be cutting it out twice, and this is doubled up, so that'll be 4 cape pieces. And honestly, that should be pretty good. It won't be a super full cape, but it's not like I can really comfortably deal with super full capes anymore. And a super full cape would be really annoying on the back of my chair. If you're a beginning sewist, I actually do recommend you maybe try out a cape for one of your earlier projects. It's very simple and it doesn't really rely on fit much at all. After I've cut out all those pieces, it's as easy as just sewing all the panels together. Now, because my cape isn't very full, I also did have to add some length on the outer panels so that it could wrap around my neck. I decided I also wanted to top stitch all of these seams so that would look a bit more cohesive with the top stitching I did for the shirt. So after a quick top stitch over all of these seams, I can now sew the black and the gold together. So I'm doing a zigzag stitch around pretty much the entire perimeter of the cape. I will leave a tiny space open so I can flip it inside out. And that's pretty much a cape. It goes really fast. Now for the closure, I just decided to sew on some of these big sew-on snaps. And here is our cape. See, it's a very reasonable size. It's a very reasonable cape size. This is, yeah, I'd say about half as big as my previous Batgirl cape. You can see it doesn't seem that big when I'm actually wearing it. That's okay, I don't need this to be a huge cape. I think we are ready for the final reveal of my motivation recovery build. This cute little fashion Batgirl look. Ooh. I want to tell you about the photo shoot first. We got out to the photo shoot location. I'm in my cute little Batgirl costume, and before we even take the very first photo, a bird pooped on my shoe. A bird pooped on my shoe. I, in my entire life, have never had the displeasure of being pooped on by a bird flying overhead. But it happened today. It pooped on my brand new demonias. Final thoughts on this look. I think it's really well done. I think the craftsmanship on this is really clean. I think the seams look very nice. I think the fit of the top and shorts, very nice. The next question would be, did this motivation recovery build actually recover my motivation? If I'm gonna be honest with you, like, yes and no. I do now feel more motivated to like sew. Like, I'm excited about sewing more. I have some sewing ideas. I want to sew stuff, but I don't necessarily feel motivated to like work on cosplay builds. I don't know if this makes sense. But basically, you know, aside from the car crash, I've just had a lot of things happen this year that have canceled out conventions for me. And at the point I'm filming this, I think my very first convention that I can cosplay at this year is going to be in October. So I will have gone basically the whole year without being able to go to a con, which, like, you know, I don't need sympathy for that. Obviously, it's a privilege to be able to go to conventions, but this is also a hobby and very much driven by my creativity and my motivation to create. So I don't know, I feel excited to sew and make stuff, but I don't necessarily feel excited to like put together a big cosplay. I'm kind of happy just like making little scrap busting builds and, you know, finishing out some costumes I have in progress. Anyways, Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!